thing here. I see some Crown Royal. Now, I'm not a big drinking man, but I'm kind of interested in that. That's a good whiskey. Would you show me what that is, Al?
Well, it's kind of a weird story, and I hope it doesn't upset you thinking about Crown Royal and what this really entails. But I was sailing. My objective was to take our boat. I had a 40-foot cutter at San Pedro, and I wanted to go to the West Indies, go through the canal out into the West Indies, and my objective was to sail to every island of the West Indies and the Bahamas. So that was my objective. I readied my boat, just the two of us, and we shoved off. And when I got off the coast of Colombia, it was blowing about 85 miles an hour, and it was slog, day after day in. I wasn't getting any rest, and I didn't want my wife out there alone handling the boat. So I looked at the chart, and there was a little indent on the coast of Colombia called Cabo de Vela, Cape of the Winds, and that's just what it was. There was no elevation. The wind just screamed across there. But I went in. It was a great experience. I kept throwing the lead as I went in, and finally it was getting too shallow. So I put out 3 anchors. The wind was blowing so hard then at 3 anchors, and then the wind got more velocity, and there was a period when, with 3 anchors out, I had the engine on full speed ahead with 3 anchors just to stay there. And so when the wind finally died down there after 3 or 4 days, it got down to about 20-mile-an-hour wind, and the Indians that lived out in all that sort of thing came out in their dugout canoes, and they would go around my boat, and they were naive and hesitant, and finally I motioned to them about the 2nd or 3rd day. They came over, and I tied up their dugout canoes, and they came aboard. And they were so fascinated with my winches that they just spin them by the hour. They spin, just to hear the click.
New toy for them.
So I gave them oranges and apple and things like that, some chocolate, which they probably had never had before. They're loincloth wearers. They had quivers, they had their bows and arrows.
Really primitive.
They said there was another tribe across the Guajiri Peninsula, and that there was a man coming to visit them. And when he arrived, could they bring him out the boat? And I said, sure, be glad to have him. So they brought him out to the boat. And he was another loincloth type. And so we walked about 7 miles across the peninsula, and as we approached, he's my host now, this man, and I have about 4 or 5 other Indians trailing behind us. And as we came up to his little shack, it was a sad situation. His neighbor, who lived down the way for several hundred yards, came running out of my host's little place of
oh dear.
And my host's wife ran out the other side. It was hanky-panky, and
even among the primities.
and my host was so upset, he just reached and got an arrow, put it in the boat, killed the guy right in front of me, about 30 feet away from me. Then he got a knife and cut his head off, made a cut on the back, got his knife in there, lopped out the skull. Now he had a soft, uninteresting bag here of flesh. He got his needle and thread, makeshift needle, and sewed it up the incision, sewed the guy's lips together. Then he turned the sack up like this, took a couple of sticks and took red-hot rocks out of the fire and dropped them down the neck. And then he just molded, and
You were there all this time watching?
Yeah, the hot rocks diffused the oil and water content of the flesh, and it went right on down to size. And I was surprised. It took just about 35 minutes to shrink a head. He boiled the head in water for about 20 minutes, and that's tough on the sheen of the hair. I don't recommend that.
Yeah, I would think so.
But the lips are sewed, and the incision in the back